Do you dream of world schooling your kids, but you need to convince your partner? Watch this to find out more. Hey everyone, it's Karen King, creator of Worldschooling Central, and welcome to our YouTube channel, where we teach families about world schooling and help them get started. If you're new to the concept of world schooling, be sure to grab our free quick start guide using the link in the description below this video. Also, don't forget to hit the big red button and subscribe to our channel and click the bell to be sure that you're notified every time we launch a new video. In today's World Schooling Spotlight interview, I'm excited to introduce you to Tanya Sharkey. And as I mentioned a little earlier, she's going to tell us all about how she convinced her husband to start world schooling. Meet the Sharkey family, a part-time world schooling family of 4 from the US. The Sharkey family have always loved to travel, and Mum Tanya and her husband travelled frequently when the children were younger. After they struggled with the school system due to truancy, they made the decision to take the kids out of school and start world schooling. In today's interview, Tanya talks a lot about how they got started and specifically discusses the concerns her husband had about moving away from the mainstream education system. She discusses how they decided to educate their kids and how that evolved as her husband became more comfortable with the benefits of child-led education. Tanya also shares some great advice for parents considering world schooling and talks about the benefits of starting sooner rather than later. With so much to share, let's dive in and meet Tanya now.
Hi, I'm Tanya Sharkey. I have 2 children. Well, my husband and I have 2 children, and they are teenagers now. My daughter's 16 and our son is 18, and we home base in St. Petersburg, Florida.
So Tanya, how do you define world schooling?
Well, I think that has a variety of answers, but I think it's different for everybody. But world schooling in general, encompassing some kind of travel into your children's educational or experience of life. That would be the baseline. I think just incorporating travel in some way into your life.
And why did you choose to start world schooling?
I don't even think it was a conscious decision. When we began world schooling, it wasn't like we even knew what the term was. I mean, heck, when we started unschooling that we do, we didn't know what we were doing. So we took our kids out of school. The main reason we did that was because we were traveling too much, and the school system and traveling don't really go together very well, because we were not reaching the attendance requirements for our children to be there, and we're reaching truancy. So we got called into truancy and decided that we would start homeschooling immediately if they said we had to leave the system that year. They let us finish that year and we pulled them out. And we just kept traveling. And so it wasn't until years later that I even knew about a world schooling group. So it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just our desire to show the kids different cultures and that it isn't all the United States of America, and we love to travel, and so our kids went with us.
So what does world schooling look like for your family?
I remember when we went to one of our first world school family conferences, and we've only been to the one world schooling conference, but you saw a lot of full-timers. And I remember thinking, oh, well, we're not really world schoolers because we're not living somewhere else in the world all the time. We're not always doing that. And so I started questioning if I could even call us world schoolers. But I still feel we are. We are part-timers. We have a home base in the United States. And we kind of tease that we missed our opportunity because our kids probably would have moved abroad had we left when they were 9, 10, 11 years old. And then just something switched. The community got more solidified, and they got really into what they were doing here and their friend circles and whatnot, and it just wasn't going to happen. And we didn't want to pull them from that. They were really comfortable here. So world schooling for us has looked very different, and we've kind of just had to, there's been times where we go away. I mean, my husband came out of a corporate job in 2014 on purpose so that he could spend more time with the family. So we went on the road across the country for a few months, and then we did a month in Italy. And since then, we just have been, depending on what our jobs have been and what the kids' needs have been, it could be all 4 of us going somewhere for a month or a couple of weeks. It could be my son and I. My son and I did a trip to Scotland together. We've been in Mexico together. My daughter and I went to Peru together. My husband and my daughter have gone to France together. So it's whoever has the time. We just split up. We come together when we can. My son did a month in Mexico with friends who live there. So yeah, it's just what we can make happen. And so that's how we do it.
And when you took the kids out of school, did you de-school them?
Deschooling. Okay, so once we pulled them from public school, yeah, I knew about deschooling. Not really right away, but yeah, I guess you could say we didn't, but we kind of did. So my husband believed that he was more like, oh, we need to be school at home. So he got really excited about getting workbooks and saying, oh, you should be doing like this page, this to this today, and wrote it up on a chalkboard, blah, blah, blah. And so I'd be home with the kids. And that went really, I quickly said, this isn't working, honey. This isn't working. It's just not. And we just started doing whatever felt right. So we would go to museums and take classes that the museums were offering, science classes, whatever was around our area at the time. We just started doing that, and quickly became what I guess I learned shortly after was called unschooling. So I wouldn't say that we did deschool because we just kind of went loosey-goosey. And so, yeah, I guess we did.
And how did family and friends react when you decided to world school?
I mean, you want to do right by your kids, and you do hear people say things. I mean, we've been very lucky that we haven't had too many people around us over the years that have given us any pushback against it. Even our parents. My parents don't fully understand, but they trust me, I guess, is what they've told me, is so that, whatever, it's my kids, do what I want with them kind of attitude. So we've been really blessed.
Before you started, Tanya, what questions and fears did you have about world schooling?
I've always been a little bit more of a rebel, so it was easier for me. My husband had a little bit more fear around it than I did, and that's kind of common from knowing so many families that have done this. It seems like the dads usually have a little bit more struggle, which is understandable, knowing their like mainstream role in society. I understand that. My husband, I mean, he has always just lived a more like mainstream, like that's where he came from. Like it wasn't until he met me and all my crazy ideas that he was pushed outside of his comfort zone. And I guess I've, again, just been very blessed that he's trusted me and my instincts, because, we did natural childbirth, and we breastfed long-term, and we co-slept, and we did all those things that he was really like, what do you mean we're doing this? Why aren't we just going to the hospital and the kid's going to come home and blah, 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 So yeah, when I started talking about homeschooling, and it was another just weird thing that, Tanya was talking about, and here we go again. But so I think he just observed what was happening with the kids and watching, and he was just very open to seeing how it was going. And his fears didn't last very long. And I think every year that we continued to do this, he got more and more confident in that what we were doing was the right path for everybody. And now that we're on the back side of it, it's good. And now I know that we made the right choices. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. As a parent, you do question in the beginning, but it wasn't a difficult thing. It always just felt right for us.
And as you travel, how do you create community?
I mean, for us, because we're not out there for a really long period of time, I mean, often we haven't always met with other people. There's been a few occasions where there has been other world schoolers or other families that we've met along the way, or we knew they were going to be in an area, so we got together with them for a little while, or we purposefully travel somewhere where there are friends living in another space and we spend some time there. But I mean, our community, our core community is where we are here. But then we know people in a lot of other places. So it's just, I feel like we have a world community and then a local community.
Looking at the kids now, what qualities do you think they have because of world schooling?
I just think they're really cool people. Like, I don't know if it's because of what we've done. I mean, I don't know if they would have ended up this way anyways, but it's hard to know that, right? I don't know. They just have a sense of things that it's not just the way it is here. I mean, we talk about a lot of really cool things. I mean, we have amazing discussions. We can bring in conversations of what's going on all over the place and different perspectives. It's not just what the United States is going through. We can, oh well, yeah, those people we saw in Mexico, or oh my gosh, I know the people here are really poor, but do you remember what we saw when we were, it's just blank, you can fill in the blank, So I don't know, it's just a perspective change, and it's a passion for seeing different things and eating new foods and experiencing and knowing that people are very similar all over the world and very different at the same time. I don't know, it's just made them really amazing people. Like, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's done for them, but yeah, they're just really cool people, great humans.
And how has world schooling changed your relationships with each other?
Okay, well, let me go back a little bit. It's almost a comparison between the school system and our life after school. Like, school system, you have schedules and you have, well, we didn't really do bedtimes. We were unschooling before we didn't even know, but we were difficult school parents. But yeah, there's those getting up in the morning and rushing them out and doing all of that, right? That happens. And it's just it tears family apart in the morning. Everybody's upset and rushing around. It's crazy. And they're supposed to do these reading assignments and blah, 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 homework, all that stuff. And it's just great. It's crazy. So you come out of that and now you're unschooling, world schooling family. And for us, it's brought us so much closer. We are such a close family. Yeah, we've lived in these small little apartments in Brooklyn. We've lived in an RV for 2 months 2 different summers for months at a time. And we just have really great conversations, and we're just really respectful of each other. We have a lot of mutual respect for each other, and we can talk about almost anything. And I mean anything. Crazy stuff that parents, some maybe will be like, no, I don't know if you're supposed to. Well, yeah, I'm glad though. I feel like I really don't worry that they're going to do anything behind our backs. They can come to us with anything, and they trust that they can do that. It's funny because my husband and I just did a trip to Mexico alone. And here they are, 16 and 18, right? Well, mainstream world, I can't tell you how many people. Oh, so aren't you afraid they're going to have a party at the house? Or, oh my God, are you kidding me? You're leaving teenagers at home alone. And they just think that they're their normal mainstream, teenagers, and they're just not. And when I hear people talk about teenagers and all the normal, oh, teenagers. And then I'm just I don't have that experience. I don't know what you're talking about. And I think they have a bad rap. I don't think teenagers are supposed to be like that. The normal, what you hear about them. I think that that's what they become because they have this stuff put on them that this crazy stuff that they have to do versus being able to just live their lives. And I know this is maybe more unschooly, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, all of it. The unschooling, the world schooling, the experiences have just really brought our family very close together. And I wouldn't trade anything we've done for anything else.
So what advice would you have to parents about traveling with teens?
I mean, I feel like when they're younger, often, you still want to be considerate of their feelings, but it's a little bit easier to move around without them, giving you a little more pushback, I guess. As they age, them being human is definitely apparent. It's there. Okay, they're humans. Yep. They've got opinions. And so, we've definitely, I think I mentioned off interview that we probably would be living abroad by now, if we hadn't missed that window of opportunity. That window of opportunity is not reopened yet. And my kids are 16 and 18 now. So yeah, we have definitely taken into consideration how they feel about things. And so, yeah, it changes. And, we are a 4-person family. I have friends that are, 5 and 6 people families. And it's harder when you have all these individual people and you're trying to make everybody as happy as possible. But it's almost impossible at the same time, right? So there's a balance that's got to be met somehow. And it's not always easy. And that's kind of what's led us to split off and not travel together all the time. And by honoring everybody's needs like that, it's it's absolutely more complicated, I think, unless your kids are just, let's go. And, I'm sure there are those out there, but I don't know. They have more opinions now, and I have to honor that.
And how do you guys afford to World School?
Has changed and morphed over the years and continues to. So my husband had a really good corporate job until 2014 when he decided to take the plunge and quit. So we had some savings from that. And so that actually, we use that over about a 2-year period to fund most of our travels at that point and our lifestyle. And then we wiped it out. We weren't really good at planning. We could have had that for a lot longer time, but we decided to blow that in about 2 years. There it goes. And so since then, we've just been doing we've just been letting kind of the universe, okay, what's coming our way now? And taking those jobs and those little independent contractor works. And I was a photographer for a while, before the kids, while they were in school, I had a studio here. So I would take photography jobs and just stash the money. Or I started dog walking and doing pet sitting. And so that was something we were using money. My husband was doing contractor work. I mean, it's just about finding those hustles, those side hustles is really what it's been about. And just taking those opportunities that are presented to you and making them, funneling the money in different ways, cutting back on things. We've lived in small places. Just living differently. Not spending, we spend on travel is our top priority, good food, experiences. We don't buy a lot of fancy furniture or new clothing, and it's just priorities for us. Travel has been a top priority, and we find ways to fund it, period. It just happens. I don't know. I don't have a magic answer. It's going to look different for everybody. Find what you're good at, take the opportunities, and make it a priority if it's a priority.
Okay, so what's next in your world schooling adventures?
Let's see. So start from youngest to oldest, I guess. My daughter, again, 16 years old. So she's a lot of theater. She's very creative. She does art in every form. She writes. She goes to poetry readings. She gets up and performs improv. Drawing, painting, all the creative. She's everywhere. And she's just going to keep trucking along. She, on her own, as an unschooler, has wanted a little bit more academic. And she's not my academic, you wouldn't think academic. She's finishing, she does Khan Academy. So she's doing the math and grammar programs and is finishing all that. My son, who is my normally academic kid, he's my he's the one who's leaned that direction on his own. He's been doing that all along, and he just got into a coding boot camp that he starts on Monday. So he will be in that program until the end of July, and then we don't know because it has a job placement at the end. So he loves Mexico City. He's been teaching himself Spanish for years, and he's been to Mexico many times. Maybe could end up somewhere like that, or we all love New York City so much, so that's another opportunity for him. But who knows, really? And my husband is still doing contracting work. So he had another job and lost it in May, was let go of that job. The one that brought us back to Florida after we were living in New York. So that job went sour. We came home to Florida with another job. That job went away. So we've been doing crazy random stuff since then. So he's just going to continue. He's building his podcast coaching business. He was in broadcasting. He was in radio. So broadcasting for over 27 years. And that was the corporate job he left. So he's a podcast coach now. And so he's building that business, doing some other side hustles. I'm doing side hustles all over. And I've started a business taking women abroad. So I'm doing basically organizing trips for women to go overseas and in this country too. We're doing a trip to New York in May.
And Tanya, where can we find you guys online?
Yeah, my husband he was, like I said, he was in broadcasting for 27 years. He used to be a talent coach for morning shows. So knows pretty much everything about what the equipment you may need for starting your own podcast. He's a really big believer, as I am, in storytelling and getting your word and your truth out there. And he's an amazing listener. And so he is at mypodcastcoach.com. So you can find him there if you need any assistance with that. And then me and my travel business is at perfectlyflawedwoman.com. I'm also on Instagram as The Perfectly Flawed Woman, and our family's also on Instagram as The Perfectly Flawed Family. So yeah, please check us out.
And finally, what would you say to someone who's sitting at home watching this video considering world schooling?
If you love to travel and you're considering world schooling, I highly recommend it. I mean, it doesn't have to, don't get locked into the idea that it has to be full-time or that you have to be doing it constantly or this amazing grand scheme of travel. I mean, even if you're going somewhere once or twice a year and doing whatever your family can, heck, just travel your country. I mean, so many of us don't even leave our little town. Just travel your country. I mean, I can only speak for the United States, but it's huge and it's amazing. And there are people from all over the world right here. So don't feel like you have to be this extravagant traveler to consider world schooling. I think we get locked into a lot of those notions, right? So just do what you can and do baby steps. And you never know what the universe is going to provide for you when you put that out there. So just be open to opportunities. Check out things like couchsurfing.com, trustedhousesitters.com. There's an amazing trade community on Facebook too, where you do house swaps. So that's another opportunity. All of these things are ways for you to save money traveling. Look into hostelworld.com. And there's a ton of resources out there to make it budget friendly. Start talking to your family. Where do they want to go? Where do they want to explore? And just see if you can't make it happen and go for it.
To find out more about Tanya and her family, check out the links to their websites below this video. If you enjoyed this interview, be sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified each time we release a new video. To find out more about World Schooling, grab your free copy of our World Schooling Quick Start Guide using the link below the video and visit www.worldschoolingcentral.com.